So I had this idea. I wanted to simultaneously sound treat my window, but also add a sort of light filtering or light blocking element to it. So how did I do this? By making a sound panel, of course. Hi, my name is Mark, and if you haven't watched my previous video on making the sound panels, you should definitely check it out. So originally, I made 8 sound panels, but I only used 6. The reason for that is because I think 6 panels in this 12 by 14 room is sufficient enough to sound treat it. And I'll be honest, I kind of didn't want to move my desk back from the wall to place sound panels there. It's also going to be very difficult to center the sound panels and make them look nice because the wall that my desk is currently against, there's also a window. Okay, well, let's get on with the video. Full disclaimer, this is not a tutorial. This is just me kind of taking you guys on a little bit of an adventure, putting my room together as it stands right now. So obviously I started things out by measuring out my window, kind of getting the sizes and sort of planning how I was going to make this panel. Originally I was going to use 1x4 boards, kind of like how I made these sound panels here, but I'll get to why I didn't in a minute. So once I got the basic idea of the dimensions of the sound panel, I went ahead and started deconstructing the previous 2 sound panels that I had made. So once I got my measurements and everything planned out for making the box, I went ahead and cut all my pieces and I started making the box. Now I measured the top piece to the appropriate length, but I subtracted 1.5 inches from the side pieces. Let me explain why. The side of my window is measured out to 58 inches and 1/4 inch. And I wanted to place those side pieces on the inside of the box. If I had cut those side pieces to the exact length, the sound panel itself would have been a little too long for my window. So picture this as the top piece, picture this as a side piece. I wanted the side piece to go in like that. So the corners are meeting up this way instead of this way. And that's why I had to take off 1.5 inches here, because it's going to be going inside the box. So now, why 1.5 inches? So the thickness of a 1x2, a 1x4, 1x6, what have you, is actually not 1 inch. It's 3/4 of an inch. Since each piece's end is being met with another piece, that 3/4 of an inch needs to be considered. And since each end is being met with another piece, you have to subtract 3/4 up here and 3/4 down here. When you add those together, you get 1.5 inches. So once you get that 1.5 inches, you subtract it from the overall length, and then you'll have an appropriately sized box. So I didn't do this while I was making the sound panels, and I had to cut in about 1 inch off of each panel in order for them to fit. Speaking of insulation, so the reason why I took apart those other 2 sound panels that I had is because I wanted to harvest the insulation material that I used for those sound panels without having to buy a whole nother bundle of that thermofiber stuff that I bought. Because if you remember, that package is like $50, and I'm not going to spend $50 just to make this one little window panel. Now I mentioned earlier that I was going to be using 1x2 boards to make the box instead of a 1x4. Let me explain why. So the depth of my window, meaning how far in the window is inside the wall, is a little bit less than 4 inches. So if I was going to make the sound panel 4 inches thick, it'd be sticking out of the window a little bit too much for my taste. So I opted to make the box out of 1x2 pieces just to make it a little bit thinner, and it'll fit inside the window a little bit better. Now when it came to wrapping the box, I used the same method that I did while making these sound panels for my room. I even used the same fabric because I had some left over. Off camera, I covered the back of the sound panel with some white fabric I had laying around. And the reason for that is for the same reason why I wrapped the back of these panels, because I don't want that insulation material sort of just being out in the open. I also braced the box with some scrap 1x4 I had laying around just to give the box a little bit more rigidity, and here's some crappy B-roll of that. I also used the same D-loop hooks that I used to hang up these sound panels onto the sound panel I'm using for my window. The reason for that is because I want to easily remove and place it into the window, so that way in case I want to have some natural light come in whenever I'm shooting a video, or if I want it to be totally dark in the middle of the day because I don't feel like looking at light, I want to be able to have that option to remove and place it in the window very easily. Now for the moment of truth, does it fit? Yes, it does. Ooh, it's dark. so it does completely darken the room when it is placed in the window, and I love the fact that I'm able to remove it from the window whenever I want some natural light in here. There are some areas that I did not stuff correctly or sufficiently, and you could see it in the video evidence. However, I'm not going to fix that because I'm kind of too lazy, I'll be honest with you. Plus, I do have a curtain on this window, so when the panel is in the window and the curtains are closed, you don't even really notice any light kind of bleeding in, which is nice. So you know what? I'm going to leave it just like that. So in conclusion, I'm pretty happy with the way it turned out. I think it's contributing more to light blocking or light filtering rather than sound treatment, although I still think it does sort of help a little bit with sound treatment. After all, a window, a glass pane, is a flat surface for sound to reverberate off of. And by placing a sound panel over that, yeah, it's going to be helping a little bit with sound treatment. But hey, it's doubling as a light blocking / sound treatment panel for my window. And hey, I call that a win-win. Future mark here. Okay, so there was a couple things I forgot to mention in the video as I'm editing, mainly one thing. And that one thing is my plan for the next video. In my first video, I mentioned that I was going to get a couch. Well, that's actually happening. I just ordered a couch from IKEA, and when it gets here, I'm going to take you guys along for the ride. So stay tuned for that next video. Thank you guys for watching this one. Until next time, we'll see ya. Bye-bye.